make sure that you receive a parking permit, because they do ticket on Tuesday nights. Friday nights, parking is free after 4 p.m. and then on Saturday and Sunday, so you don't have to worry about that. So for our next two upcoming events of the Armenian Studies program, our next program is going to be on Friday, October the 13th, which is going to be a presentation by myself and our students who traveled to Armenia in May of this year. And we'll have myself telling a little bit about the trip, but mostly it's going to be the students who will be talking about their experiences. We have 5 or 6 of our students who will present some pictures and tell about their own impressions. I think it's very interesting because to get that insight from the students is different than my perspective, of course, because I've been to Armenia a few times. So for most of them, it's the first time they went to Armenia. That'll be on Friday, October the 13th, here in this auditorium. And then on Friday, October 27th, we have guests coming from the University of Southern California. Avo Kamburian is a student director who made a film for his graduate project called Echoes of Kef Time, and it features the story of the Hagopian family. It's about a 35-minute film, but the director is also coming down from Los Angeles, and he will be talking about the film, and you'll have an opportunity to speak with him and to ask questions and to talk to him, and I think that's a great opportunity for you to do so. We still have more events coming up after that, and I'll be posting those on Facebook, also on Instagram, and then also on our website. So should be plenty of ways for you to receive information about our upcoming events. We do also have an email blast, and if there's anyone that's interested in that, let me know and I'll add you to our email blast. I'm going to put on the PowerPoint for our guest, and then I'll introduce him. Well, as you were coming in today, you must have noticed this very large book. Our author is Dr. Claude Mutafian. He's written a book. It's in French at this point, called Jerusalem et les Arméniens. It's the story of the Armenians in Jerusalem. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger for us. Actually, that's not going to work. Sorry about that. Okay, I think we're okay with this view. So our guest speaker tonight is Dr. Claude Mutafian. He is the son of parents who were survivors of the 1915 Armenian genocide. His father is the well-known painter Zadeh Mutafian. Dr. Mutafian taught for more than 40 years at the universities in Paris, Princeton, New Jersey, Havana, Mexico, and in Yerevan. And his passion has always been history. And he has written about the Armenian genocide and about Karabakh, Artsakh, but his main field of interest remains in the medieval period, in particular in Cilician Armenia and its relations with the Crusaders and the Mongols. He has published books including Cilicia at the Crossroads of Empires and the Historical Atlas of Armenia in 2001. Tonight he'll be talking to us about the very interesting contribution of Armenians to the old city of Jerusalem, to Jerusalem, over the many centuries that Armenians have been involved. And I'm going to leave it at that because he's going to tell you what the lecture will be like. And then afterwards, you'll have a chance to meet with him in the gallery where we'll have some coffee and refreshments. But you also have his book that if you'd like to purchase it. And you'll also see some books that are being offered by the Armenian Studies program. The Armenian Studies program has an Armenian series as part of the press at California State University Fresno. And recently we have published our 19th volume in that series. And you'll see the 18th and 19th volumes that are out for sale now. And they're new books, just hot off the press, as they say. So feel free to come by and take a look at it. So without further introduction, Dr. Claude Mutafian. Dr. Mutafian. Let me fix this 1 minute real quick.
Before beginning, I would like to
No, speak to
insist
the microphone.
Yes, come on this side, yeah, please.
on the fact that the subject is Jerusalem and the Armenians. It's not restricted to the Armenians of Jerusalem. It's a relation between.
Very close, speak very close.
And is there cela que me garde? Pourquoi cela que me...
Un second.
Ah, je wil hoog
Yeah, but wish with the close
Okay, so, assez pour faire marcher. Assez. Net Kevin, net. So, it's very interesting because you see, in spite of the distance between
Turn the microphone toward you. Problem.
yeah, the distance between Jerusalem and Armenia, there have always been contacts, and even Jerusalem has always been a kind of dream for the Armenians, always. This is let's see if it works. This is the oldest map of the world in Armenian, and you see that here in the middle here you see Yech, Men, E, Jerusalem, E. This is Jerusalem. Jerusalem, the center of the world, in this map. So that's the actual situation in Jerusalem. The western part is in the state of Israel, but the eastern and in the eastern part there's here the old city. And the old city is divided in 4 quarters. The tourists are always very impressed with the fact that they are divided by the religions. So the Jewish quarter, Muslim quarter, Christian quarter, which includes the Holy Sepulchre, and the Armenian quarter, distinct from the Christian quarter, which is the best proof of the importance of Armenia for Jerusalem. It's a distinct quarter. So here is the seat of the Armenian Patriarchate, which is independent from both Catholicos. Here is the great cathedral, St. James, and here is the Armenian Museum. There used to be an Armenian museum that I had visited in the 70s, but very poor, very poor. There was nothing interesting. So when I went to see the Patriarch then, and I said, well, don't remember, Jerusalem is out of Armenia, the place where are the most valuable and important cultural objects, Armenian cultural objects. And so, you know what they told me? They told me, no, it would be too dangerous to display them. Well, don't make a museum then. Don't make a museum. Well, that's one of the examples of, I'm very sorry, but the stupidity and even worse of all these patriarchs of Jerusalem. One after the one is worse than the former one. This one is the master. Anyway, so they closed it, but the museum, but they decided to reopen it at the beginning of the century. And well, as long as they heard that I had some experience in museums and exhibitions, so I was one of them being contacted to take care of that, the museum. And the museum, so with Raymond Kevorkian, we worked about 10 years, going and coming back, and Jerusalem, what to put in there, with all the problems, and just to give you to give a summary of the problem, the opening was last October, and neither of us was invited to the opening. So, you see, so the Armenian Quarter, you think you're in Armenia, the Ararat Street, the Armenian Orthodox Patriarchate Street, and this is the inside. It's like a small Armenian village. And it's very pretty, in fact. It's very pretty. So this is the place where there's now the museum. That was an old caravanserai. two stories, very pretty, which used to be, which has been used by the orphans in the 20s. When the orphans there, and it's very moving when you look at the wall. There are inscriptions, obviously from a child hand, like my ligus anushe, things like that, you know. And when we remarkable, when you say when you told the people in charge of that, we said, oh, there are very many inscriptions. You know what was the answer? Don't worry, we'll wipe all these. So with Raymond, what we took all sheets of paper, we put on every inscription a sheet of, and we said, don't touch that. Well, what happens? This one? Oh. Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, now there is a. Before that, yeah. So these are some. These are a few examples of the objects which are exposed in the museum that I haven't seen, of course. So the objects which are in Jerusalem, the various art objects, Jerusalem, and of course manuscripts, because I insist on the fact that outside the Material Jerusalem is the richest manuscript library, the Armenian manuscript library in the world. There are about 3,000 manuscripts, Armenian manuscripts. And just to give an example, the most famous Armenian miniaturist, Storos Roslin, 13th century, there are 7 Roslin in the world, and of the 7, 4 are in Jerusalem. 4 of them are in Jerusalem.
Tabernacle also.
4 of them, two in the Material and 1 in the US. So you see some manuscripts. Of course, the manuscripts are facsimiles, because you can't expose for the manuscript. It's true that there's a problem. But the facsimile is very well done in Armenia, in fact. This is the entrance of the St. James Cathedral.
That's very beautiful.
And the actual entrance here. And this is the inside of the cathedral, very luxurious.
Very beautiful.
Sometimes it doesn't work, so it doesn't want to.
That's gorgeous.
I will do it. You just tell me what you. I'll do it, and then you just speak and just say next.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So it's called this is supposedly the head of St. James, which is kept there. The body is in Spain, in Compostela, Santiago de Compostela, and the head is supposed to be here. So, so this is also a document with a picture of the St. James. Yeah. But apart from the Armenian quarter, the Armenians have also some possessions in the Christian quarter, more precisely in the Holy Sepulchre. This is the Holy Sepulchre. All of these green arrows are places which belong to the Armenian. Like you see here, see, Armenian. Yeah. This is an example. It's an Armenian chapel in the Holy Sepulchre. See that written in Armenian. Yeah. So this is Tigran the Great. So you ask me, what has Tigran the Great to do with Jerusalem? Well, in fact, he has to do, because in his expedition, he arrived near Jerusalem, at St. John of Acre, which is like the suburbs of Jerusalem. And he was going to enter Jerusalem when he learned that the Romans were attacking Armenia. And so he had to go back. But you see, this fascination of Jerusalem already before the Christian Armenia. Yeah. And it's interesting to know that one of the best sources for Tigran the Great is a Jewish historian from Jerusalem called Flavius Joseph. He's represented here, Josephus. Yeah. In fact,
On the other map that you showed, was that Armenia at one point that went all the way down to what's now Israel?
Who?
Asking about the map. Is this
Yeah, that
later?
map.
This is the Empire of Tigran the
Yeah,
Great.
yeah,
Okay.
Empire of Tigran the Great.
So
Yeah.
that was all?
Yeah, that was the conquest of Tigran the Great. So, but of course for the Armenians, it was interesting to say that he entered Jerusalem. So this is in a manuscript of Moses Khorenati, but it's much later. It's later than the 5th century. And he says, you see, Jerusalem Medane. He entered Jerusalem, he said, but it's a kind of legend, you see. All the important people in the history of Armenia always have a dream to visit Jerusalem. All of it, without any exception. So this one is Grigol Zavorich. Next one. You see, in this manuscript, Jerusalem, after having converted Armenia to Christianity, he went to Jerusalem. That's a very important letter in Latin. It's woman, a noble woman, Roman, who wrote that letter, and the important is that the date 368, and she speaks about the people in Jerusalem. And the first one she mentions are the Armenians. 368. And that's a Roman lady. Yeah. So, speaking of Christianity, that is the Chalcedon Council 451, which, as you know, the fourth ecumenical council defining the nature of Christ, and the Armenians, like the other Eastern minority churches, refuse the conclusion. So that's very important because it means that from then on, Armenian was considered heretical by the Latin and by the Greek Church.
That's amazing.
Stephanos Orbelian in the 13th century, look what he wrote here, you see, the Polol Bachares Jorovurti Jorovin Karkedoni. All the errors of the Council of Chalcedon. The converse, the Armenian accusing Chalcedon, even in the 13th century. Yeah? So another important person, of course, is Mesod Mashtots. He's here, and the Sag Catholic is telling she to convert the Armenian alphabet. And he also, yeah, so he created the Armenian alphabet, as you know, the 36 letter, yeah. And but then this manuscript, after that, he went to Sud Jerusalem. After creating the alphabet, he went also to Jerusalem, like always. That's an inscription, Armenian letters in Nazareth, near Jerusalem. Why are they so important? They have been found under other stones with Greek inscriptions dating from the 5th century, the Greek ones. So these ones were under.
Oh.
So they are also at the latest on the 5th century. So these are the first Armenian letters that we know. So 5th century, and they are in Nazareth, near Jerusalem. Yeah. This is the first Armenian alphabet stamped, published. I mean, in
Paleography, yeah.
what?
Paleography. Sure.
Yeah. So, where does it come from? In fact, it's a German pilgrim called Breidenbach, from Breidenbach. In 1478, he went to Jerusalem. So he became familiar with the Armenians of Jerusalem. He was interested in Armenian culture. He learned the Armenian alphabet, and when he came back, he printed the alphabet. So the first printed Armenian alphabet, in fact, comes from Jerusalem. through this German pilgrim. A few years later, another German pilgrim, Arnold von Raff, went also to Jerusalem, and when he came back, he copied also the Armenian alphabet. Yeah. No, after, no. Oh, no, this is what, well, after this one, yeah. This one. So, yeah, okay, thank you. So, this is also another of the important person of Armenian culture, is Moses Khorenatsi. He is ordered to write the history of Armenia. This is one of the best manuscripts of Moses Khorenatsi. And what did he, after writing the history of Armenia? Well, he went to Jerusalem and sang Yisudben Deras. I went to the holy places, to Jerusalem, always. Around Jerusalem, there are some Greek convents, mostly these three one, in which there have been, since the Greek themselves, right, that there have been Armenian monks there. The minority of Armenian monks in these Greek convents. This is one of the three, Saint Sabas, one of the three convents in the Armenian convent in Jerusalem. And in these manuscripts, here you see that Vanes Sulpo Sabasi. So this is an Armenian manuscript copied in Saint Sabas. Yeah. So let's come back to the old city. The old city is at the Armenian quarter. So these 2 points are places where there were, or there are, Armenian mosaics of the 6th century. So this one is outside the Damas door, here, just, and this one is in a Russian convent. So there are Armenian manuscripts. So this is one of the mosaics in the Russian convent. You see, with Armenian inscriptions. That is one of there are 3 in the Russian convent. But the most spectacular is this one, outside the door of Damascus, which is so from the 6th century, and with an inscription here that we see now in Armenian, the splendid mosaic. So this is the inscription. Ihishadag the Pelchubiev anont volons anun del fide. So it's to the salvation of those pilgrims that God knows. So del fide. But no, the former one still. As you see, it's all humility. And in fact, this mosaic is in a place outside of Damas, which is full, and the Armenians can't make any work against humility because they only own this room, not the building. So there was a big fight because one and that with the museum, someone decided either they take it to the museum, which we save it, of course, but then the historical location disappears. So they were for and against. Finally, it was decided to put it in the museum. It's here. In fact, I think it's not a bad idea because now everyone knows this, and they will even put on the top of it a very thick glass, so that even people can walk on it.
Right.
So this is in the courtyard of the. Yeah. This was the ceremony of the opening of the museum, so don't try to find me here, I'm not there. Yeah. So after 428, so as you know, the Armenian kingdom disappeared. Armenia was divided between so the Persian Sasanian Empire and the Roman Empire, with the famous Battle of Avarai. And the Persians, the Sasanian Persians, went to Jerusalem and captured Jerusalem. So you see, they are taking away the Holy Cross. They captured Jerusalem, but the Roman Emperor Heraclius declared the war, and he succeeded in retaking Jerusalem from the Persians. And in fact, the Armenians helped very much for this recapture of Jerusalem. In spite of that, the Armenians, as it's written here in this manuscript, the Persians didn't behave bad toward the Armenians because all the Christian minority, they weren't their enemy, they weren't dangerous. The danger was the Greeks and the Latins, the Romans. And for instance, this is a manuscript of the 7th century, which gives a list of of 70 pilgrim places, Armenian pilgrim places around Jerusalem. 70 gives a list. This begins by Pedro Sivank, the convent of Peter, and so on. There are 70. But again, Jerusalem fell again to the enemy, this time to the Arabs. After the recapture by the Greeks, it was taken over by the Arabs. So this is the capture of Jerusalem by the Arabs. And so now the situation is different. There's Armenia on one side and the Byzantine Empire, which took the continuation of the Roman Empire on the other side. And well, Armenians are, most of them are in the Arab part. Yeah. So there are in Jerusalem are kept 3 Arabic documents supposed to be from the 1st century of Islam, one by Omar, Ali, and Mohammed. And all of them, this is one of them, all of them precisely, explicitly say, don't give any harm to the Armenians. Same thing like for the Persians, because they were not their enemies. So there's a big problem because, well, I don't know Arabic, but when I show the world the specialists of Arabic, they will say this is not a 7th century writing. The letters, it's much older. So there are probably older copies. When I say that, so this stupid patriarch became furious. Why are you putting in doubt our treasure? Well, very sorry, I said, ask to any specialist of Arabic. But so the same thing, they were very tolerant to the Armenians. You see, High Jerusalem, the Armenians continued to go to Jerusalem with no problem. So this is the Arab even at one moment in the 9th century authorized the Armenians to recreate kingdoms under the suzerainty of the Arabs. But still, so the two most famous are the Bagratuni kingdom with Ali and the Arzuli kingdom with Artaman. That's an interesting. There have been a few times the Byzantine emperor who had Armenian origins. This is an emperor, so in Greek it is supposed Hovannes Tsimises, but in fact his Armenian name was Hovannes Chemeshkik. He was his coronation as a Byzantine emperor, and here these are an Armenian manuscript. It has Hovannes Chemeshkik. Minche, Jerusalem. This Byzantine emperor of Armenian origin, well, he went to Jerusalem. So everything changed because then with the Persians it was okay, with the Arabs more or less okay, but now it's the arrival of the Turks. So in 1071, the Turks, Alparslan, captured Ani. And that was the end of any Armenian state in historical Armenia. So there are here you see also the Seljuk Turks captured all of Persia, a big part of the Byzantine Empire. The Byzantine Empire was reduced to that. But it's important to know that there was another Muslim power which was not the Turks, it was the Fatimid Caliphate, which were Arabs and enemies of the Turks. And in fact, many, some of the Fatimid caliphs, some of them, not many, but some of them were from Armenian origin. Well, the most famous, called Badr al-Jamali, it was a former slave which has been converted and who became a sultan. So the Turkish conquest was the reason of an exile of many Armenians. And the Armenians, well, when did they go? They went here because that was a remnant of the Byzantine Empire, so it was still a Christian place. And there were already Armenian prince nobles which were settled there in Cilicia. Yeah. Here, this is blue are Armenian princes who were already in Cilicia. And these two, in the Rubilian and the Etumian, are the newcomers after the Turkish conquest. And these are the ones who are going to recreate in Cilicia an Armenian state, which was to be the last Armenian. So that would be, we see now, an Armenian kingdom, but outside Armenia. At that moment, the Turks had also captured Jerusalem. So the capture of Jerusalem provoked the Pope decided the crusade in 1095. That was in Clermont in France, all the assembly there, and the Pope here is preaching the crusade to go and deliver the holy places from the Turks. And the coincidence, there's a very interesting coincidence, because if you see the road from Constantinople to Jerusalem, well, was crossing Cilicia or Cappadocia. So that was a contact between the Franks, as they called the Crusaders, and the Armenians. It was a pure, it's a geographical coincidence, but that's the way. And so the Crusaders became to know the Armenian and that part. And this is very interesting. It's a French member of the Crusade, Guibert de Nogent. Many of the participants of the Crusade wrote after that the story of their trip. And Guibert de Nogent, when he arrived in Cappadocia, so what is he like? In Armenia, in Greditur. We entered in Armenia. It was in fact in Cappadocia, but which means that there were so many Armenians around that he thought he was in Armenia. In fact, he wasn't. But he thought that's the best proof of the importance of the Armenian presence. Before Jerusalem, the Crusaders had to besiege Antioch. They captured, and how did they capture Antakya? Well, that was an Armenian Muslim called Firuz. He is the one to open the key of Antioch to the Crusaders. Firuz. And so now that's very important. When the Crusaders were approaching Jerusalem, in fact, Jerusalem was not in the hand of the Turks, because the Fatimid Arabs had recaptured Jerusalem from the Turks. And this is another manuscript of a member of the Crusade, and he says that the owner of Jerusalem was not an Egyptian, but an Armenian. So what was this Armenian? Well, this Armenian was, in fact, the Caliph, the Fatimid Sultan, which was an Armenian converted to Islam, called Al-Afdal. So Jerusalem was not in the power of the Turks, but of the Fatimids and in the person of Al-Afdal. So, yeah, this is the supposed process of Al-Afdal. And Al-Afdal had a very interesting idea. He sent an embassy to the Crusaders. He said, look, why shall we fight each other? Because we have the same enemy, the Turks.
Yes.
They are your enemy, they are our enemies. So, let's discuss between us. But the Crusaders, for them, Arab, Turk was the same thing. They didn't understand anything of the subtlety of this Armenian sultan. And so the Crusaders finally captured Constantinople in 1099. And that Samuel Anetsi, an Armenian contemporary historian, look what he writes here. Del Vahram I Jerusalem el. Del Vahram was the Catholicos. So in fact, at the moment of the capture of Jerusalem by the Crusaders, the Armenian Catholicos was in Jerusalem. See, it was always the relations with Jerusalem. So the Crusaders created 4 states. The county of Edessa, the Principality of Antioch, the county of Tripoli, and the kingdom of Jerusalem. And as you see on the map, 2 of these 4 states had a common boundary with Cilicia. So they had very many relations between these crusaders and in fact in the county of Edessa, this one, the majority of the population was Armenian. Look at that map. You see, it's a French map. You see, population with majority Armenian. Look at all that. This is in the county of Edessa. The majority of the population. This is one of the chiefs of the Crusaders, who was later to become the first king of Jerusalem, Barvin I, and he entered Edessa, and here's the Armenian prince of Edessa who welcomes him. So now let's do something interesting. The Crusaders, they came to settle, not just to capture Jerusalem, but to settle in these 4 states. Well, nature being what it is, in order to settle, they have to found a family. In order to found a family, they have to find a wife.
Armenian queen.
And a wife. So, but the conditions for the wife was very strict, because they were the Crusaders. So the wife couldn't be a Muslim, of course. She should be a Christian, but not a Christian Greek, because Greeks and Latins were enemies. So she had to be a Christian, not Greek, noble, and pretty. Well, only the Armenian princesses corresponded to these 4 criterions. And for instance, the 2 first Armenian queens of Jerusalem were Armenian.
Yes.
The 2 first ones. So, this is Barvin the first, and this is his wife, Arda, who is an Armenian princess. But he separates from Arda, as you see, he divorced with her. Why? Well, the chronicles of the woman say that, because she couldn't get any children. Well, it's totally wrong, because in fact, she's the second of the 3 wives of Barvin I, and Barvin I was incapable to have a son or daughter with any of the 3. So the clue is given by an English traveler who traveled to at that moment to Jerusalem, William of Malmesbury, and he writes in Latin. Look here, he writes that Barvin I had a horror of approaching a woman. What was it mean? Barvin I was either homosexual or impotent. That was the reason of the divorce, not anything else. And yeah. So look at that. In Versailles, there's dating from 1850. There's a whole museum in the castle of Versailles which is called the Crusaders' Rooms, and they're all paintings of the middle of the 19th century. Well, look how the painter painted Barvin I, very effeminated. He was succeeded by his cousin, Barvin II. Well, look at the difference. Bardin II, a totally different character. Bardin II also married an Armenian princess called Morphia. But, contrary to the first one, Morphia had a very important role. At one moment, Bardin II had been taken prisoner by the Turkish emir. So what did Morphia, so it's manuscript in French, it's written in medieval French. It says that the queen gathered all her Armenian subjects, told them to disguise as monks with a knife in the pocket, and as monks they would be allowed to enter, and that's what happened.
Oh, wow.
So this is his Armenian wife who saved him, and through Armenian subjects. Comment les Arméniens se mirent en habit de moine et entrèrent dans le château où le roi était pris. In medieval French. Baldwin and Morphia, when Baldwin II died, well, they had 4 daughters, but no son. 4 daughters. And of course, the elder daughter, well, became Queen of Jerusalem. And that's a very, very famous character, Melisande, who became so the Queen of Jerusalem. But interesting to see that of the other ones, the one Alice married the Prince of Antioch, and the Odierne married the Count of Tripoli. So they were Armenian princesses at the head, half Armenian, let's say, from daughters of at the head of the important Armenian states in the east. And so, and who was going to be king? Well, the one who would marry Melisande. She was the queen.
Yeah.
So they brought from France the Fulk d'Anjou, a noble from France. They had him married Melisande, and he became the 3rd king of Jerusalem. But when he was crowned, Melisande told him, don't remember, you're king, but you are king because you are my husband. I am the queen. And she insisted to be crowned together with him. 10 years later, Fulk died, and they had 2 sons. So the older son became king of Jerusalem. He was called Bardin III. But Melisande told him, well, you are king, but you are king because you are my son. I am the queen. And she insisted to be crowned the 2nd time with her son. A strong Armenian woman, this Melisande. And the interesting thing also is that Melisande is very much praised by all the French historiography, but she doesn't figure anywhere in the Armenian historiography. The Armenian historiography ignores her name. Well, I think, well, my explanation is that for, well, of course, she became Catholic to become Queen of Jerusalem. And I think that as she became Catholic, well, most of the Armenians considered that she was not, who are not interested. It's very simple. She's very praised in the Frank historiography and totally ignored in Armenian historiography. You see, she's fighting with her son, for instance. Her son wants her to do something, and she's fighting with her son. Here, at the Second Crusade, when her son receives the King of France and the Emperor the German Emperor, well, she sits here because she wants to govern everything. A strong woman. And this is the first mention of the St. James Cathedral by a Western Western traveler. And it is at the time, you see, the Saint Jacobi Majoris, and it's at the time of Melisande. So we don't know exactly when was built St. James, but it's not impossible that it had been built during the reign of Melisande. Right, but there's no absolute proof. This This is when he died. She died in 1161. William of Tyre, which is the main, the Archbishop of the city of Tyre, and he was the main source for the First Crusade, the contemporary. Well, when she died, he praises her. She's a woman who was more brilliant than any other woman. And he says here, that's the most important, that she has governed the kingdom during 30 years or more. So he considered that she was the queen, and that the husband or the son were just, like they say, they faire valoir, one says in French. So that's very important because it's the Archbishop of Tyre who writes that on the spot, at the moment of her death. So at that moment, during that time, well, the Reubenides were extending their authority on Cilicia. The first capital, the second capital, and the third capital. They were expanding their authority there with the idea of founding a kingdom, if possible. So this is the genealogy of the Rubilian princes. You see the first one there. And finally, it's the eighth one, as we see, that he will succeed in becoming king. The eighth one. But all of them continued to... so this is, for example, one of Toros. This is a Latin manuscript, a French manuscript of that epoch. And you see, there is la cité de Tarse, the city of Tarse in Cilicia. And here it says, the Toros, which was the word of Toros, le puissant homme d'Arménie, the powerful Armenian, or the Toros of in Cilicia. This is also, so this Toros, he went to Jerusalem, and he said, here it says that the king of Jerusalem went to meet him and made him big honors to this Toros. Here, Reuben, who succeeded to Toros, well, you see that in Armenia, Kenaz for Jerusalem, Yel Pazun Zahuk with much yeah, and Ad Idigin, a Stuster, he took as a wife the daughter of the king of Jerusalem. This is Reuben. Well, let's continue. So this is an old photograph of the St. James Cathedral, you see, sul Bank, Ayos, Jerusalem. And well, the actual entrance, which, if you compare to the photograph, it has not much change. And so at that time, it began to be Armenian. This part of the city was being little by little Armenized. You see, look at all the Khachkar in the world. Some splendid Khachkars in Jerusalem. That's all that moment. This is the famous Catholicos Nerses Shonorali. That now it's this year with the 850th anniversary of his death. That's why there are some symposium and so on. The first of the Crusader state who fell was the county of Edessa. It was captured by the Muslims, and Shasholi wrote a poem about a tragic poem with the capture of Edessa, which shows a certain solidarity with the Franks. So Guy de Lusignan was the king of Jerusalem at the end of the 12th century. Lusignan was in a city in the west of France. Yeah, there it is. And the last kings of Jerusalem were the family originated from that city. But at that moment, everything changed because appeared a very powerful Muslim conqueror that was the Kurdish Saladin. So here is Saladin, and here is Saladin conquered Jerusalem over the Crusaders. And here well, Guy de Lusignan is presenting his submission to Saladin, the loss of Jerusalem. The Catholicos, Gregor III, well, wrote a poem about lamenting the fall of Jerusalem. There was still a solidarity. And this is a very beautiful firman. It's a roll of 2 meters long, kept in Jerusalem, and of Saladin. And Saladin says the same thing that the ones of the 6th century, don't touch to the Armenians. But contrary to the other one, this one is confirmed, the original. So this is from the hand of Saladin, the original. This